Hey everyone, in this video, we'll be creating a Streamlit app that can actually talk with images using Gemini. The idea is simple. You upload a picture, type in a question, and Gemini will look at the image and give you a detailed answer. What makes it even better is that every question and answer gets saved into a chat history, so you can follow the conversation as it builds. The most recent response always appears at the top, while earlier ones are kept below, neatly separated with dividers. It's a clean, interactive way to explore images, almost like chatting with them directly. All right, let's dive in and build it step by step. By the way, I've attached the GitHub link of the complete code in the description. Don't forget to give it a star if you find it useful. Before we start coding, we'll need an API key from Gemini. This key is what allows our app to connect with Gemini and analyze images. To do that, first, head over to aistudio.google.com and sign in with your Google account if you're not. If you're using this platform for the first time, you'll see this pop up. Just click Get API Key, then you'll be asked to accept the terms of service. You can also choose to receive model updates and offers by ticking the checkbox. Then click I accept. Next, tap on the Create API Key. Now select Create API Key in New Project. Wait a few seconds and here we go. Your API key is ready. Simply copy it and use it wherever needed. If you ever want to delete it, use the delete option. You can also generate a new key using the same steps. All right, you've got the key. Go ahead and paste it into a .env file in your project. This keeps it secure and makes it easy for our app to access without exposing it in the code. Let's quickly look at our project setup. Inside the folder, we have a .env file. This is where we've stored our Gemini API keys. Next, there are two sample images, Gemini and Salad, which we'll use later for testing. And finally, the heart of the project. Talk with a photo.py. This Python file is where all our app logic lives. Now let's start coding. At the very top of our Python file, we'll import the libraries we need. OS, so we can work with environment variables and file paths. Streamlit, to build our user interface. Google Generative AI, to connect with the Gemini model, and .env, to load our API key from the .env file. Now that we've imported everything we need, let's define our function. I'm defining a function called ask_and_getAnswer. It takes two parameters, a text prompt and an image. Inside this function, I create an instance of the Generative AI model using Gemini 2.0 Flash model. Then, I generate a response by passing both the prompt and the image. Finally, I return the text of the generated response. Now I move on to the application entry point. If dundername equals dundermain. First, we load the API key from the .env file using load.env. Then we configure Gemini with the key using genai.configure. Inside the .env file, we have stored our Gemini API key named as Google API key. Next, we start building the user interface. We display the Gemini logo at the top. Here, we're using a local image file called Gemini that sits in our current project directory. After that, we add a subheader called Talking with an Image. Also keep in mind, you could load the logo directly from a URL instead of a local file. Then we create a file uploader widget that allows the user to upload an image with label Select an Image in format like JPG, PNG, or GIF, and store it in IMG variable. If the user uploads an image, we display it immediately and with a caption that says Talk with this image. Now, time to test the application up to this point. Just open Terminal. Make sure you're in the current project directory. Then here, type Python-m, Streamlit run, and the path to the Python file, which is named as Python, talk with an photo.py. The app is starting. This is the layout of the app. The Gemini logo, a subheader, and an upload widget. Now to select image, click on Browse File and select any image you want. I will select image named Salad and click Open, and it was displayed below. Very well. We go on. The next step is to let the user ask a question about the image. So, add a text area with label. Ask a question about this image. This gives the user a box where they can type their question. Then add a condition, if prompt. This makes sure the next block of code only runs once the user actually enters a question. At this point, I needed to prepare the image for Gemini, since the uploaded file comes in as raw data. We need to create a helper function that converts the uploaded file into a pillow image, something Gemini can understand. To make that possible, import the pill and IO libraries. Now inside this function, read the uploaded file using .read method, which gives me the raw bytes of the image. Next, we use image.open method. Inside this, we wrap the binary data with io.bytes.io, which turns the raw bytes into a file-like object that Pillow can read. So effectively, this line is converting the uploaded file into a proper pill image object. Finally, we return this pill image so it can be passed into Gemini. Now that the helper function is ready, we return to the main application flow. After the condition, that checks if the user entered a question. The first step is to call the helper function, stImage2pill, which converts the uploaded image into a proper pillow image format that Gemini can process. Next, wrap the API call inside a Streamlit spinner. This gives the user a nice loading indicator. While Gemini is working in the background, inside the spinner, call the ask and get answer function, passing in the prompt and the pillow image. The result from Gemini is stored in the answer variable. Then, display this answer inside a text area, so the user can clearly read Gemini's response. Finally, add a divider underneath to keep the layout clean and separate this response from any further content. Now it's time to test the application. I am using the same salad image. Let's start by asking, describe the image as detailed as possible, and hit Ctrl plus Enter. The app begins processing and we can see the clean Streamlit spinner. And here we go, the response is ready. So the first thing Gemini did was give me an overall description of the picture. It said the image shows a bright and colorful salad in a clear glass bowl, sitting on a wooden table made up of fresh greens, fruits, and nuts. And looking at the photo, that's actually true. Then, it went even further by providing a detailed breakdown, then listing the salad components individually. It really does capture the salad perfectly. Very well, let's just ask another question. Make a list with the ingredient used. And here we go. Gemini came back with things like mixed salad greens, mango, pomegranate seeds, walnuts, almonds. And yeah, looking at the salad, that's pretty accurate. Now let's complete the final part of application. I wanted the app to remember all the questions and answers, almost like a running chat. So create a key in the session state called History. This key will store all the previous questions and answers. If the history key doesn't already exist, I create it and set it to an empty string. Next, whenever the user asks a question, take the prompt, which is the question and the answer from Gemini, and combine them using an F string. That gives me a nice format. First the question, then 2 new lines, and then the answer. To make the history easy to read, we also insert a line of 100 dashes as a separator. Importantly, the newest interaction is placed at the top of the history. This way, users always see the latest Q&A first, without needing to scroll down. After updating the session state, we copy the full history into a variable H. Finally, we display this inside a text area widget labeled Chat History. The parameter key equals history ensures this widget is tied to the same history key in the session state, so the data persists. With this setup, users can conveniently scroll through their entire conversation, while the most recent question and answer are always visible at the top. All right, let's test the final app. First, let's ask, what are the ingredients in it? And hit Enter. Gemini comes back with a very accurate result. items like mixed greens, mango, pomegranate seeds, and some nuts. That response also gets saved into the chat history, and you can see it displayed neatly with a divider line underneath. Now let's try another question. What is the approximate prep time? Gemini replies that making this salad would likely take around 10 to 15 minutes. It also explains why, because you need a few quick steps like washing and chopping the greens, cutting up the mango, removing the pomegranate seeds, and then mixing everything together in the bowl. Notice how this second Q&A appears right at the top of the chat history, while the earlier one is still shown below it. Thanks to the divider, each exchange stays clearly separated and easy to follow. And that's it. The app is now complete. You can upload any image, ask questions, and Gemini will give smart, detailed answers while keeping track of the full conversation.